Hello, One Great Earth. My name's Dan. We're going to be looking at a few different articles today. Mostly simply we're just looking at the United States and what happens with corporate carbon credit, carbon credit mirage. We'll follow up with a different story in Brazil. Our rates have reduced some billionaires. We'll take a look at that article, take a look at the far right fossil fuel conglomerates that are just trying to put a stop into what they already knew was going to happen, and now they have to. I mean, they already knew it was going to happen, and instead they went along with it too for the money. It's always going to be the profits that everybody's going to eat. The wars fought over this shit. Climate wars. Trying to get these multi-trillion-dollar companies to pay instead of these little piddly fines that they're usually faced with. They should be able to conduct business anymore after so many disasters, you know? Temperatures smash records 12 months in a row. May capped a full year of monthly record-breaking temperatures. Globally, rising heat is causing hundreds of deaths, disrupting education, and displacing communities because the classrooms get too hot to learn. Heat stroke in kids is real. I remember that when I was young. A heat wave. No AC in our building. Every month for the past year has seen temperatures break previous records, and what the director of the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service calls a shocking 12-month streak. Temperatures in May broke records for the 12th month in a row, reaching 1.52 degrees Celsius or 2.74 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. According to the C3S data released on Wednesday, that marks the 11th month that temperatures have climbed beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. While the sequence of record-breaking months will eventually be interrupted, the overall signature of climate change remains, and there is no sign of sight of a change in such a trend, CS3 Director Carlo Bontempo said on the report. In 2015, governments agreed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, while pursuing efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees as part of the Paris Climate Agreement. Average global temperature over the past 12 months reached 1.63 degrees above levels measured from 1850 to 1900, before industrialization. However, it does not mean the 1.5 limit is broken. Average temperatures are measured over decades rather than individual years. So far, the global average temperature has risen is estimated to be 1.2 to 1.3 degrees. This has nothing to do with the actual carbon budget as well. That's a completely different topic. Human-driven warning. The year 2023 was the hottest on record, with temperatures fueled by climate change, which is driven by the burning of fossil fuels such as coal, gas, and oil, but also influenced by the naturally occurring El Nino phenomenon, which typically increases temperatures. Still, the UN's World Meteorology Organization said in a report also released on Wednesday that at least 1 year would likely exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2028. For the past year, every turn of the calendar has turned up the heat. Our planet is trying to tell us something, but we don't seem to be listening, UN Secretary Antonio Guterres said. In a case of climate, we are not the dinosaurs, we are the meteor. We are not only in danger, we are the danger, but we are also the solution. Global warming is leading to more extreme weather patterns, with climate change linked to longer and hotter heat waves, heavier rainfall in some places, and the conditions driving droughts and wildfires in others. In India, recent weeks have seen unrelenting heat wave, with temperatures soaring to above 50 degrees Celsius in some parts, killing at least 50 people, causing a spike in heat strokes and forcing several schools to close across the country. That has particularly had an impact on the informal labor sector, which constitute about 90% of the workforce in India. Frontline workers, laborers, and farmers often have no access to cooling systems such as air conditioning and are unable to avoid the extreme heat. They're absolutely exposed to the elements. Heat stress is not just a huge productivity challenge in terms of workforce and the consequent economic impacts, but also huge public health crisis. Most vulnerable populations affected. In Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, rainfall has estimated to be twice as likely and up to 6% heavier as a result of global warming. The rainfall led to severe flooding. Yep. The United Kingdom displaced some 600,000 people. Let's just go into more facts. COP28, COP29. The article. This is from The Guardian. Weather tracker. May sets new global temperature record. That's why we were going over the previous article. And a 12-month record is setting is that May is now a record setting as well. So the trend continues. Higher, hotter, average. And when we see temperatures as they are in Nevada right now, in Death Valley, California, New Mexico, North Africa, and North India, Egypt especially, just terrifying the extreme heat that we are seeing. And people are just going to try to get out of the way and avoid the heat and not question as to why it's so damn hot. Average surface air temperatures of 15.91 Celsius was 0.65 Celsius above 1991 and 2020 average, while sea surface temperatures also hit a new high. Let's take a look at that real quick. Daily surface air temperature, climate reanalyzing. Take a look at the tropics. Okay, the temperature for the tropics is going down. This trend is typical around this time, as we can see in the previous years. Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, dip, Antarctica, huge spike there. Wow. And tropics. So we're seeing a much higher rising line here. Even though it's 1.0 to 1.1 Celsius, this line, it should still worry people because it is that much higher on average than the rest of the history of record keeping. Make jokes all you want about, well, I'm not going to trust a barometer from 1850. Don't be a fucking moron. This shit is serious, and there is no place on the planet that you can hide from the effects of this shit. You cannot be so rich that you can literally just wait off climate change and the effects of climate change. This shit's real. And even when workers in Florida are dying from heat exhaustion and heat stroke and lack of water on their earned breaks, where does it end? You can't even say climate and change on TV in Florida as a weather person. You're a climatologist. And you can't talk about what you do for a living. May 2024 has set a new global temperature record with an average surface air temperature of 15.91 Celsius. This figure is 0.65 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average for May and 0.19 Celsius higher than the previous record set in May 2020. This continues a remarkable series as it marks the 12th consecutive month of record-breaking warmth for each respective month. The significance of May 2024's temperatures extends beyond recent records. It is 1.52 degrees Celsius above the estimated average for May during the pre-industrial period of 1850 to 1900, underscoring the long-term impact of global warming. Additionally, the global average temperature for the past 12 months reached an average unprecedented level, standing 0.75 C above the 1991 and 2020 average and 1.63 C above the pre-industrial baseline. This period represents the highest annual average temperature recorded, highlighting an alarming trend in climate change. In Europe, May 2024 was notably warm, with an average temperature of 0.88 degrees Celsius above the 1991-2020 average for May. This makes it the third warmest May in history for the continent. While temperatures soared in many regions, the eastern equatorial Pacific showed below average temperatures, suggesting a developing La Nina event. However, air temperatures over the ocean remained unusually high in many areas, contributing to the overall global temperature increase. Sea surface temperatures (SST) also hit a new high in May 2024, despite the developing La Nina, as the average sea surface temperature over the area between 60 degrees south and 60 degrees north was 20.93 degrees C, the highest ever recorded for May. This marks the 14th consecutive month that SSTs have set a new record for their respective months, indicating a persistent and worrying trend of ocean warming. Extreme heat has continued into early June for many parts of the world, with heat waves gripping southern parts of Europe, the Mediterranean, Northern Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. It was reported that in the first 6 days of June, 80 countries had already broken monthly or all-time temperature records. In Egypt, temperatures reached an all-time record of 50.9 degrees Celsius in Aswan on Friday, 7th June, exceeding the previous national high of 50.3 from 1961 in Karga. Additionally, this was set as a new record for the highest temperatures ever reliably recorded across the whole of Africa for the month of June. One more time. Additionally, this has set a new record for the highest temperature ever reliably recorded across the whole of Africa for the month of June. Also in The Guardian, far-right fossil fuel company Allies fossil fuel company campaign. Sorry, I forgot the headline at last story. Groups linked to billionaire far-right fossil fuel companies Allies pressure U.S. Supreme Court to shield firms in unprecedented campaign. Groups linked to billionaire Leonardo Leo, who seem to have ties to Chevron, are pressing the court to intervene in lawsuits that could cost billions. Far-right fossil fuel allies have launched a stunning and unprecedented campaign pressuring the Supreme Court to shield fossil fuel companies from litigation that could cost them billions of dollars. Some of the groups behind the campaign have ties to Leonardo Leo, the architect of the right-wing takeover of the Supreme Court, who helped select Trump's Supreme Court nominees. Leo also appears to have ties to Chevron, one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. He's really crafted the Supreme Court, said Lisa Graves, executive director of progressive watchdog group True North Research and expert on Leonardo Leo's network. Honolulu is one of 40 cities and states suing Big Oil for an alleged decades-long effort to sow doubt about the dangers of burning fossils. If successful, the case could force defendants to pay for climate damages. In October, the Hawaii Supreme Court ruled that the suit can go to trial, but oil companies petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court in February to review the state court's decision. They argued the case shouldn't be thrown out because emissions are a federal issue that shouldn't be tried in state courts. Supreme Court justices met on Thursday to consider whether or not to take up the fossil fuels company's request, and the justices could grant or reject the petition in the coming days. If granted, the request could catalyze the dismissal of the wave of climate accountability lawsuits against Big Oil, a major win for the defendants seeking to limit their liability for the climate crisis. But it's the kind of ask about which the Supreme Court would not normally offer its opinion, advocates and legal experts say. The court would probably not think this request is important unless someone told them it's very important. That Kurt Davies, a director at the Center of Climate Integrity, which supports the litigation against Big Oil. Some conservatives have been telling him exactly that. I have never ever seen this kind of overt political campaign to influence the court like this, said Patrick Parenteau, professor in senior climate policy fellow at Vermont Law School. In recent weeks, conservatives have published opinion pieces in Bloomberg, The Hill, The Wall Street Journal, and the National Review calling on the court to grant the petition. Honolulu is attempting to use the law of one state to dominate the others. Yeah, right. Because the billionaires are not, using their immense wealth and networking connections to not let this happen. State rights, right? Only if it's abortion or anything else. But this, no. We don't want to stay right here. Asked about the influence campaign, Savino told The Guardian, liberal dark money groups are freaking out because the Supreme Court is being asked to step in and correct the damage those dark money groups are doing with their massive campaign to subvert the law and the Constitution with a radical climate agenda. Yeah, 1,000 petitions filed, yes. They're all in the take, and they all take private planes, millions of dollars, kickbacks. What about state judges, federal judges? Is there an ethical difference whenever you're faced with a shitload of money? You can see just how much far-right fossil fuel companies are advertising. So the Bloomberg, The Hill, the Wall Street Journal, and the National Review, all like right-wing rag pieces of void of intellectual merit. When you're so heavy-handed, negative, and right-wing, it's not reality. The voice in your head is the person talking, so you're a negative voice. When you're reading these right-wing, conservative pieces, shaming. Shame's a central theme in a lot of it. I'm sorry, I digress. Yeah, that's to be expected, but they have all this money, so they're gonna take out all the ads for the possible viewership of one of the Supreme Court justices. They're gonna pick up a copy of The Hill, or go online The Hill, and it's pretty much a paid piece pleading with everyone that could listen to not find them liable for events that are happening now in climate change that they knew were going to happen the entire time, and they still went with it. Why is that? Because they want enough money to be able to try to buy their way above climate change. It doesn't matter. You can't move to any particular state or country or island. It's all bullshit. It's not a closed system. It doesn't just end because a country's boundary ends. Just like, you see, like, I don't want to digress too far, but this kind of dark money, this kind of insanity, instead of millions of dollars going to causes such as, I don't know, putting more kids through college, for the same job that I performed, someone in a previous generation, let's say 1975, was making $25, $30 an hour compared to what I was getting. And they would be paying, what, $200 rent. Their car would only be maybe a couple $100. You know, their purchasing power was a lot more because at the end of the month, when all their bills were paid, they had X amount of money left over for raising a fucking family. You know, the people that are older, the age of 50, 60, have a very, very, very strange grasp on what they assume is minimum wage. I thought minimum wage is $20 an hour. This is while the person's ranting at me about people making too much money per hour. Okay? Now, minimum wage is not $20 an hour. You're crazy. It might be in some states and some industries, but not enough, because minimum wage should be right now at least a minimum of $15, $16 an hour. And instead of campaigning for workers' rights and the people that would benefit greatly in their families, because you have to see it this way too, is that if somebody's working their ass off more than you probably could imagine, working 2 to 3 jobs, and you have these people that just sit there with their billions and just try to plot. While you have somebody that's working 2 to 3 jobs at a time, minimum wage goes up, they can leave one of these jobs willingly because they're working 3 jobs in the first place. What is the quality of that work in the first place? And the person is doing this obviously probably for a family. So you would get it's just not fair. I'm not saying give poor people money. I'm saying where's the campaign for people that work their ass off for their family? And then they have to be worried that if they lose one of their jobs, what are they going to do? How are they going to get a third job again, make that work, make that third employer believe that they're going to be able to make this work? That's not easy to do. So let's say 2 jobs. Person's working 2 jobs a week, and they have to leave one job because they're going to stay with one job that has the benefits and everything they need already with a paying livable wage. $10 an hour right now is a joke. You're in the hospital for one night and you're billed $10,000. It's not okay. It's dental work is insane right now too. It's everything's insane, and this is separate from inflation. These are services that I believe are not dependent on inflation at all. They're either price gouging or prices on goods and services are really just have gone insane. Can't even go to the movie theaters anymore without at least like $30 or so. Like, it's insane. But our buying power, our purchasing power has never been increased in the most longest stretch of time for our minimum wage ever. And then where will we be? So if people already make over $20 an hour and people are saying, let's push the minimum wage to $15 to $20 an hour, what happens to those markets now with these people that make $20 an hour? Do they get pushed up an additional $10 an hour or adjusted accordingly with their wage to what's been adjusted for inflation? If inflation goes up $5 or $6, I mean, that'd be great for everyone. And companies that can't afford to pay their workers should not exist. Pay your workers. Pay them what they're worth. And just talk to them what you what they think they're worth. That's always important that I don't see get brought up enough is communication between the employer and employee about, I digress again, I'm sorry. We're talking about Supreme Court getting fossil fuel money and ads appearing in all the kind of right-wing trash that you would imagine that politicians would read. Seem brainy. I don't know, you don't look at the Hill, that's a really brainy publication. Like, that's a really conservative publication. What the fuck does that even supposed to mean? It's a conservative, it's a right-wing publication. That's a real savage way to put it. Like, it is low bar, low intellectual, and just probably detrimental to actually just knowing nothing compared to reading one of those. Especially when fossil fuel is taking out big money to advertise on all of those. They're gonna take all that money for these terrible reasons, and they're gonna be okay with it because it's money. Money talks, right? It's not like any of these magazines or publications would have ethical reasons to not take fossil fuel money. This is what happens. Look the other way. Don't talk about it. It's not happening. La 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 la. People can stamp and put their fingers in the ears, but it's going to be worse than just temperatures being across the board 20 degrees higher than what they should be this time of year. It's going to be worse because flooding will get worse, because rains will get worse. All that water that is sea level rise doesn't just stay in the water, it evaporates and goes into the atmosphere, and all that rain flies around and falls down on a place, and you're going to hear a bunch of people go, I haven't seen this kind of rain here, I've been here 50 years. You're going to hear a lot of that bullshit. You're going to hear that all the time now. We lived here for X amount of years, we've never seen this happen before, it's never been this bad. Well, you probably didn't have your grandfather didn't have was living down by 2 dams and them have fail spillovers. And these days are a lot bigger and faster than what previous generations know. And these are the people that are Congress delegates. They make very, very important choices based on probably what they read in the Hill. Brazil police that's good enough. Brazil police raid Amazon carbon credit projects exposed by Manga Bay. That is his publication. Brazilian English. Start from here. The Brazilian Federal Police arrested people and seized assets linked to some of the country's largest carbon credit projects. According to the investors, the group was running land grabbing and timber laundering crimes in the Amazon for more than a decade and profiting millions of dollars. The profits were exposed at the end of May in a 1-year investigation published by Manga Bay, which showed links between the REDD Plus projects and an illegal timber scam. Authorities and experts hope the findings will raise the bar for projects in the country and persuade lawmakers to create strict rules for the Brazilian carbon market, which is now under discussion. On June 5th, the Brazilian Federal Police launched a raid targeting the proponents of some of the largest carbon credit projects in the Brazilian Amazon. The greenwashing operation focusing is really called greenwashing? Greenwashing operation focusing on the group of Ricardo Stappi, cited in late May in Manga Bay for its links with an alleged illegal timber scam. In the country's largest investigation ever done on this matter, authorities found that the group had installed projects in land grabbing areas making 100 million Rias, or 34 million USD, from selling of rotten carbon credits. Stop owns 5 REDD plus projects in the Brazilian Amazon covering 400,000 hectares, nearly 1 million acres, more than 5 times the size of New York City. REDD Plus stands for Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, and carbon credits are generated by protecting an area that could otherwise be deforested. The federal police targeted the same 3 projects investigated by Manga Bay. Fortaleza is 2, Uniter and Evergreen, located in municipalities of La Brea and Apuí in the south of Amazonas state. Among the buyers of these credits are companies such as carbon credit broker Moss, the Brazilian low-cost carrier GOL Airlines, the food delivery iFood app, i2, one of the country's leading banks, and the international companies Toshiba, Spotify, and Boeing. Okay. The federal police echoed Manga Bay's findings. The group was using these areas not only to generate carbon credits, but to also fake documents to launder timber taken from illegally deforested areas. In Brazil, all timber must be accompanied by a document called DOF, the Forest Origin Document, known as a timber credit. Once environmental authorities approve the forest management plan, its owner can issue a certain number of DOFs corresponding to the volume of trees allowed to be extracted from that area. In Stop's case, however, an analyst found that the forest management plans inside his REDD projects didn't extract all the wood they could. According to the Center for Climate Crime Analysis, the nonprofit, a Netherlands-based organization founded by prosecutors and investigators that investigates emitter of climate warming greenhouse gases, use satellite images to compare the volume of timber taken from Stop's area and the volume declared through the DOF system. CCCA found mismatches equivalent to more than 4,800 truckloads of wood. Manga Bay's investigation reveals evidence reviewed by experts that these mismatches indicated that Stop's projects could be used as spare credits to launder the timber illegally taken from other areas. According to the federal police, the false timber credits were probably used to launder timber extracted by Stop's own group and by Charles Rosenbaum Group, considered one of Amazon's largest deforesters, who was sentenced to 70 years in prison. 2 men targeted by the investigators are loggers, Jose Luis Capilazo and Elcio Apreciado Mosse. According to the authorities, the group is behind the illegal extraction of more than 1 million cubic meters of wood, the equivalent of almost 5,000 truckloads. Wow. They were certainly using the paper to launder wood. Near the logging companies, there is a indigenous land, and there is always wood being taken from there. The federal police served 76 arrest and search and seizure warrants in the state of Rondônia, Amazonas, Mato Grosso, Paraná, Ceará, and Sao Paulo. They seized 2 airplanes, luxury cars, and several pieces of jewelry. Mocha and Capilazo were arrested, as well as stepson Richard Valeris Stop and Capilazo's daughter, the forest engineer Pauliana, who signed the likely fraudulent forest management plans used by the group. After spending 2 days on the run, Ricardo Stop turned himself in to police on June 7th. As we were talking about with these carbon credits being very useless, they do not produce conservative efforts, especially when everything is going to be fraudulent. Everything's going to be fraudulent. not real. The books are cooked. The trees aren't real that they're saying, and then they're saying that the trees that are real are actually from a different forest they're harvesting illegally. Just awful. I thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please like the stream, subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep motivated, especially to keep my eye on new climate change research and journalism. I will be back with a new stream soon. I thank you again. Please take care.